think every time that you go out filming, you need that one versatile battery-powered light that you can bring on every shoot, just in case you need a bit of extra key light, backlight, or even a product light. One that you can easily handhold, get great results with, and most importantly, have fantastic battery life. Today we're taking a look at the latest light from Viltrox, the H18, which is an LED light stick. This form factor is very handy to use, it's versatile, and you can achieve a wide variety of different looks. The light stick is double-sided. It has a mix of warm and cold white LEDs on one side and RGB LEDs on the other. Firstly, I'll show you a few creative looks that I've achieved with these lights, and then we'll run through these specs, all these settings, and the details on how to set up these lights yourself by using the onboard controls or the Bluetooth app. The H18 light stick has built-in diffusion, which will give you a nice soft light. The light stick has a wide beam angle, which will work well with lighting up larger spaces, but there are also bundles included in this kit. Bundles are a fantastic addition to help shape the light and have less unwanted spill. Depending on which side of the light is being used, the bundles will have to be popped off and rotated accordingly. Having bundles with these lights makes the light very versatile, so they can be used in a lot of different scenarios like a product shoot, fashion shoot, and also music videos. For example, when filming in a white studio, we might want to light up the background a different color than the model. In that case, we'll close down the bundles and aim the light at the model, and for the background lights, they can have the bundles open as wide as possible to light up the studio walls. In this scene, I have two lights facing the white studio wall to create a teal background, and I have a few foreground lights. One side is the same color as the backdrop, and the other has a warm orange tone. This sort of look can easily be achieved with only 3 lights, but I really like multiple light reflections in the sunglasses, so I've positioned a few of the H18 around each side. I've created a few different looks in the studio to show you the possibilities of these lights. For some of the looks, I have used 11 H18 lights. For others, only 2. Using fewer lights actually makes you think a lot more about positioning and shaping the lights, as well as the shadows and how to get most out of the lights. So for the first scene, I went for an over-the-top neon party vibe. We got the teal and pink colors in there, but then I wanted to try out the color effects on those lights. So I jumped into the RGB cycle mode. Each light was doing the cycle at a different hue, and because we set up 10 lights around the model, you get this interesting rainbow effect where the background is different color to the model and it keeps changing over and over again. Next up, we have downsized our setup. I wanted to create more of a vintage orange and a bit of teal look. This one was probably the most simple setup we had in terms of lights, but it looked really good. For the next scene, I also had limited lighting setup to create more of a moody scene. We had 2 lights, one on the right side of the talent, which was a fill light, and the second was shining a light beam over the model's eyes. The bundles do give us a wider beam, so I put on the black wrap, which is basically black aluminium foil on top of the bundles, and shaped the light into a thinner and more narrow light beam. And lastly, I wanted to go for more of a cyberpunk music video look for this scene. I have installed a top light on a C-stand, closed the bundles to narrow down the beam. That way the key light will only affect the model and it won't spill onto the background. Tube lights are often used as practical lights in shots, so I wanted to see how these lights will look in the scene. So I have positioned 4 lights in the background with no bundles. They create a nice backlight for the model, and we also filled the studio with smoke to create atmosphere, and that way you'll see a bit of halo around the lights as they illuminate the fog. The last touch was to use a prism in front of the lens, which created very interesting looking reflections that made this scene look a lot bigger. Also, the entire day we were filming on the Viltrox 50mm 1.33x squeeze T2 anamorphic lens, which gave us a very organic and natural look. When lighting up small spaces or product shots, it's really important to have good control of the light. So let's jump into a little setup I've made and have a close look how the bundles can help with controlling where the light goes. We're here in the studio setting up our miniature setup, and we're using 4 of the H18 tube lights, and they all have bundles because we have different colors, different color temperatures set to different parts of the scene. So we're trying to create separation in the scene with different colors. So let's take a look at the app. So with the WeLight Pro app, we have individual control over each light. So group A we can turn off, and that's our background light. It's affecting everything that we see in the background. Group B is our top light for the character, and group C is our front key light that's lighting up the character. And also if we open up the bundles a little bit, that's actually lighting up our foreground elements over here as well. And group D is our backlight or hair lights, just set to an orange color, and it's giving a nice backlight right on the side of the character. So let me now show you how much the bundles affect this little scene. If we have them open or just take off the bundles, basically we have less contrast in the scene. The light spills everywhere, and also color temperatures mix. So we have the cold white up here, warm white affecting the background, but now that we open the barn doors, you don't have this color separation, you have less contrast. It doesn't look as nice as with the barn doors actually focusing in on the character and just on the background and just on the foreground. So it looks a lot better with the barn doors on. And lastly, after we set up all the lights, we're going to use a little smoke machine and create a little bit of low hanging fog just to add a little bit more detail into the scene. So this sort of a lighting setup is also perfect for doing a product shoot because it allows you to control the lights individually rather than having one big soft box that's kind of diffusing the light all over the place, but also lighting everything up too much. So this gives you a lot more flexibility and control to create your scenes. Apart from the barn doors, in the box you also find the carrying case that fits the H18 light with a power cable and a mini tripod. Once the lights are fully charged and at 100% power, I have measured 2 hours of constant light in CCT mode 55,000 Kelvin and 3 hours in full power using RGB mode with red color. Keep in mind the battery time might vary depending on which color you choose, but it's still a very impressive battery life. The mini tripod that's included is great when you want to put the lights on a table or on the ground. The light itself actually has mounting points on either side to mount the tripod, so you could flip the light upside down and get the light very close to the ground, which would be handy for product shoots. Having a 1/4 screw thread means you can attach this light onto a light stand, a C-stand with a proper adapter, and also a magic arm. Controlling this light is very simple. The on and off switch is on the side. Once the light is turned on, there's a few buttons on the front for controlling the settings and a little display. By pressing the middle button, you're able to change from the RGB side of the light to the white side. When we switch to the white side, which is CCT mode, we'll have two simple options: brightness and temperature. You can use the dial to change the settings, or the quickest way to change the settings is to hold down the plus or minus buttons. In CCT mode, the color temperature can go from 2800 Kelvin all the way up to 6800. If you press and hold the middle button, the light will switch sides to the RGB or HSL mode. Firstly, we have the brightness, then we can adjust the hue, and lastly, the saturation. There are more ways to control the colors on this light. If you press the middle button again, we jump into RGB mode, where you can manually adjust the values of each green, red, and blue individually. Pressing the middle button again will bring us to the gel presets, where we can choose from a variety of Lee and Roscoe gels. Last but not least, we have the scene mode, which has quite a few different effects such as RGB cycle, party mode, breathing, lighting, flash, light bulb, welding, SOS, candle, and fire. Each of those effects has 3 different speed variations. On top of the screen, there is a number and a letter. This corresponds to the Bluetooth group and channel on the app. To change the groups and channels, press and hold the top button. There are 19 channels and each has 6 groups, which allows you to individually control 114 lights. But you can also set multiple lights to the same group and channel, and that way you'll be able to control them together. A cool thing about using this app and being in the Viltrox ecosystem of lights is that they all seamlessly connect to each other. So lights like the Ninja 10, Ninja 20, the WP35 panels, the K21 tubes, and even the pocket light can all be grouped together and controlled from the same app. Now let's quickly break down my lighting setup here. I'm actually using 3 of the H18 lights to light this setup. One of the H18 lights is set to 54,000 Kelvin at 100% with barn doors closed a bit, but it's going through an extra layer of diffusion just to make this light a little bit softer. Now I have 2 background lights, and as you can see, they are cross-lighting the background with teal and orange color theme. And that's it. It's a super simple lighting setup, but it works really well. I've programmed these lights to individual groups, so it's really easy just to jump into the app and individually control them. And the WeLight Pro app is actually really impressive with how fast it connects to all of the lights. Let me show you. So what I'm gonna do is turn off my Bluetooth on my iPad. And basically now I'm gonna turn off one of these lights, which is this one back here. And basically once I turn on the Bluetooth, you'll see how fast the app actually connects to the lights. So in 3, 2, 1. That's how fast. Like you literally press the Bluetooth button and straight away the light recognizes that its setting been changed in the app. So that's really quick and I'm impressed every single time. So if you would like to use this app to control your lights wirelessly, first of all, you need to download the WeLight Pro app from the App Store. When you open the app, you'll see an overall power button, which you can use to turn on and off all the lights no matter which group or channel they're on. On the top of the app, you'll see the channels and you can change them accordingly. And below that, you'll see the groups. Once you select the group, you'll see a few familiar options and a few new ones that are integrated just into the app. There's CCT mode, HSL mode, as well as RGB WY mode. At the moment, in the RGB WY mode, you're only able to control the RGB sliders, and also when using the effects, those will be triggered from the RGB side of the light, even if you click on the CCT mode. This means that the white color effects won't be pure white, but there will be a mix of red, green, and blue LEDs, which will give you an off-white color. XY coordinates is another way of picking colors, and there's also the effects menu. A cool thing on the app is the color picker, which allows you to pick a color using the phone camera. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a few cool things about the Viltrox H18 lights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.